Africa has negotiated free trade agreements like the Economic Partnership Agreement, which contains a chapter on environmental sustainability that is relied on to insert energy transition discussion in Africa, including Uganda. However, there is limited African participation of civil society organizations, private sector, small-scale producers, as well as policymakers in all discussions about energy transition.
Doesn't favor us, neither is it going to come to favor a number of the different people that are going to be impacted by this in Uganda as a country, but also towards the people themselves. And also in regards to how the extractivism approach, when it comes to the minerals that we have as a country, as a region, or even in Africa, most of it is being extracted by the global north. And we get to realize that even while we believe that we do have these minerals in place here locally, but our position is that we are going to either be constantly put in a dependent arrangement where we do depend heavily on a number of the products that we see are going out.
Come to Uganda, we need, just on the access side, that is distribution and last mile connection, we need about $5 billion US. Then when you add on the generation side, you could come to almost $10 billion US if we are to have investment to achieve universal access. So the question is, where will this funding come from? And these, as countries, we've discovered oil and gas and other minerals and extractives, and we should be allowed to invest in these extractives, produce them to be able to fund these clean energy agenda. So from oil and gas, we estimate to earn between 36 to 41 billion US, and if deployed in line with our Public Finance Management Act, it will go a long way to support investment in clean energy. And
the global discourse on energy transition primarily revolves around the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. However, it is important to highlight that Africa accounts for only approximately 3.8% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, with Uganda contributing a mere 0.10%. Given these relatively small contributions, one might wonder why there is such a significant focus on the issue.
Climate change is about 0.08% emission. Africa is just around 4%. So who has caused the climate change, which we are going to suffer, even if we stop causing it now? We are still going to suffer for some years to come. Politically, we must ask for payment for this damage.
It is important to acknowledge that Uganda has experienced a considerable increase in greenhouse gas emissions, with a growth rate of 50% from 1990 to 2012. This increase can be attributed to specific sectors such as agriculture, contributing 48%, and land use change as well as forestry, contributing 38%. Additionally, there is a concern about the emissions from the imported fuel brought in by large trucks crossing the border.
Also causing a lot of climate change by importing. If you look at the Bank of Uganda statistics, they're talking about, at one point we are spending about 3.4 trillion shillings on import of petroleum. And then again we are importing using these trucks, not even standard gauge railway. At least if it was maybe a railway, the emission would be little. But now there are so many trucks bringing for us this petroleum product from Mombasa up to here and driving. They are also causing emissions. If you calculate, this is to the academia and people are doing research. You can also do that kind of cost-benefit analysis. How much emissions are we causing by importing petroleum?
Uganda heavily relies on biomass to fulfill around 93% of its energy requirements, serving households and small-scale industries. Merely 12% of the population has access to the power grid, resulting in electricity consumption contributing to only 1% to the country's energy usage. The remaining 6% of the energy needs are fulfilled by oil. Given Uganda's significant dependence on traditional forms of energy like biomass, resisting the shift towards energy transition is deemed unacceptable by the Ministry of Energy.
We have about 80% of Ugandans relying on rudimentary biomass. We collect firewood, we are cooking using charcoal, and this is going to destroy our forest cover. So the question, and the Global Forest Watch has given the statistics between 2001 and 2020, our forest cover has reduced by 918,000 trees, which is quite significant. So the question is, how do we support these 80% of Ugandans who
It is imperative that we integrate the current narrative to ensure an equitable and inclusive energy transition that will take into consideration the needs of the planet and the livelihoods of the people. Runana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.